Hi guys, Nick here with BitGalaxis, bringing you a new video on our space combat prototype. And in this video, I'm going to show you my start scene and the menu system I've created. It's fairly simplistic, but it gets the job done. And we'll kind of go over what it does right now. So as you can see, when the game loads up, it has a start scene and there's just my main ship that's kind of spinning there in empty space. And I have the option to either start with the start button here or quit. In the editor, quit isn't going to work. It will work on when you compile the game and run it. But the only way I can quit the game right now is to just press the play button. So we'll go ahead and start and show you what it does once we get into start. And we go into our game like usual. But while I'm in the game, I can press the Q button to pause the game and either restart or quit. So I have the same options. In reality, these are programmed exactly the same as the menu scene was, because it's basically just loading this level over again, and the first menu scene was loading this level, and quit is quitting the game. So it's actually, these functions have not changed at all. They're doing the exact same thing. I just labeled it restart because it's not even going back to the main menu. However, if I play long enough and all of the enemy ships destroy me, and I better just stop moving so they can, if they destroy me, then the game will actually go right back into the starting scene. And you'll see just a second here, we should be there. And there you go. When I die, I go right back to the start scene and we're back to where we're ready to play the game again, and we can either quit or start from there. So let's go into how this is all set up. The very first thing that I did was I created a new scene and I called it menu, and I also created a script called menu script. And I'll show you that in just a minute, but I wanted to show you how I prepped all of this. Now, for that ship that's moving around in the menu scene, it's just rotating. All I did was took my model and I put a script on there that rotates, in a direction. I can choose whatever direction I want, and I just said like 5 degrees every second, basically, is how that's running. And it's just continually going to keep doing that for my script. That's a pretty simple thing. I actually have this script from something earlier in an earlier video, and I could show you that. I'll link to that video, or I'll put the script probably in GitHub or something, and link it down below. But it's really simple. You're just doing transform.rotate. So then I also, I had this default directional light. I left that in there. This menu, I must have added this thinking I was going to use it, and then I changed it for some reason, but didn't use that. Then I added this UI elements. This event system popped on here when I added the canvas automatically. But the UI elements, it's an empty game object, and I have added that menu script to it, and I also added all my canvas and buttons to that. So my empty game object has the script. It has a public canvas option. So something I didn't mention, and it's a bug. Actually, it's a bug because I took a shortcut and reused my menu script, is in the main scene menu, when I press Q, it pauses the game, just like when we're playing the game. But if I press Q again, it disables the canvas, because I'm saying disable the canvas in the code whenever I press Q, so it either toggles it on or off. So this canvas element, if I didn't add it, it would throw an error instead. But I wanted to show that I was using the same code and it's a shortcut, and you don't want to do that. You want to have it be unique for that scene, or at least consider what your scene needs, because you may have different buttons. So with that canvas, there's really nothing I changed here at all. So I just added a canvas to the UI elements. Then I added the start button, and the start button has this text automatically added. When you add a button, it's going to give you button text. On the text, I changed it to start, and I made its color white. I did the exact same thing with the quit button. I also changed the colors on both of these to be this kind of transparent black and this kind of transparent magenta, and when you click on it, it's going to be a little less transparent, so it looks a little bit brighter when you click it to go into the game. Quit button's the same way, and I think we had the same thing. We had the text and we changed the color to white. So fairly straightforward. And the way you add those two, if you didn't know, like the way you add a canvas is to right click in your tree, or your hierarchy over here, and you say UI, and you'll do a canvas, and you'll also do a button. And you can change other things about it. It does have like a little bit of a border. And so if that's something you want to add or modify, you can actually create an image of that and change the way that looks. You know, the target graphic is just the basic graphic that comes with it. I didn't change any of this. This was already there. So there's not a lot of work on my part for how I put that in there. All I did was change the colors of the text, and that was it. So for the buttons themselves, though, if you want them to take an action, down here it says on click. Well, on the start menu, I have that menu script here. What I've done was I need to grab my UI elements object, and so you drag it down here. You need that because you need the functions from there. So on click, I used UI elements, I dragged that in there, and then I went to my menu script down here. That's the script associated with this UI elements. And then I selected this load game function that I created. And the same thing with the quit. The quit has that same game object. I dragged it into the button. So I went here, dragged UI elements there, and then that lets me access the scripts associated with UI elements. And then I went to quit game. So I have a load game function and a quit game function, and we need both of those for the purpose of my menu. And so let's jump into that menu script now. So when you are making any kind of function that requires you to change scenes and you know, move to a new scene or load a scene, you're going to have to add using Unity Engine .scene management. I don't think I even need these two. They're not being referenced. But what I did is this is the public canvas. So remember how I added the canvas and I want to disable it or enable it. And then I have private bool menu active. Starting out, it's always false. And so I'm assuming it's false. I'm not actually, it doesn't mean it really is. We have to set that. In the update function, I'm getting the input. So if we are pressing Q and our menu is not active, so what that means is it always starts out false. We declare it false. So when the game starts, it's going to be false. So it's even if it's not, you know, false, even if it is true. So if we get the key down and the menu is not, which that's what the exclamation stands for, active. So menu's not active. Uh-oh, dragging stuff around. Let me undo that. Then we're going to set the menu active to true, which means the next time we press it, it's going to do the other function. And the menu canvas.gameObject set active is going to be true. Now we say make our menu active. And then we set our time.timescale. Remember how the game pauses? Now it's 0. The game is paused. Not going to do it, not going to move anymore. Then if the menu is active and we get the key down Q, we're going to say menu active is now false. And the menu canvas.gameObject set active is false. So now we're going to say that canvas and we're going to disable it, which makes it disappear. And since we've left our menu, we're going to set the timescale back to 1. So remember, even on my menu scene, it starts out where that canvas is already active, and the active is not taken by whether the menu is actually active. It's taken by whether we've put that Q in at all. So if the Q hasn't been pressed, then it's active. It assumes it's not, so it brings up the menu and sets it active even if it already is, and then once we press it again, it disables it. So in the game, it's already disabled by default. We set it active that first time. The function for load game, this is the one we referenced in the button for the start button and also the restart button, because remember, they're the exact same thing. I just changed the text from the menu scene to the game scene. But on our public void load game, we're saying scene manager, which is what we call, which we're referencing up here. We're saying scene manager dot load scene, and then I have the name of that scene where all the activity is going on, the sample scene. And then our time.timescale is set to 1. So the reason why I do this is because if we were to press restart, for example, and we pressed Q earlier up here, and we had if our timescale, if we go and click on the button to restart the game, our timescale may not get reset. So we always want to set that timescale back to 1 on load game. So we're going to load the scene and set the timescale to 1. And then quit game is really simple. We just say application.quit. And that's all there is to that. Now, for the last piece, when we have our ship destroyed, we go scene manager, load scene, dot menu. That's all I did. When the ship gets destroyed, we load that menu scene. Now, one other thing that we need to check before we build our game or before we try to run our game is we want to make sure that that menu scene is the very first scene that loads. And the way we do that is we go into File, Build Settings, we drag it over, and then we add open scenes. You can add the menu system scene or the scene sample scene, but you want to make sure that the order of this is the menu is at the top so that the menu is the scene that opens up first, because if it opens up in another order, you're not going to be able to make use of your menu. So that is it for today. I think I covered everything that we had for the menu system. So obviously, as you can see, you can add a lot of things that you'd like and customize that in a lot of ways, because what I've got is very basic, but it can certainly be built upon and be more robust, and we can make a lot of changes that fit our own needs. For example, you know, we have a quit. We don't have an option to go back into the main menu by choice. We could easily add a button that lets us do that and add that function in. It's pretty simple. We just change, you know, we load a different scene for that purpose. So, but yeah, otherwise, you know, it's the basics of it, and it's fairly straightforward, hopefully. And I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.